Yeah, obviously, I think that we've been honest enough with the players to kind of acknowledge that this is more than just the 3 points in conference. We'd be naive to kind of deny the occasion and just how unique it is, right? I would hazard a guess that this will probably never happen again, where you're this late in October. You have two teams that are undefeated, both ranked in the top five or so in the country, and it's an in-state rivalry as well. So to be playing Marshall at home, who are number one in the RPI, number one in the country, and rightly so, at home, for it to be an in-state rivalry, and for the opponent, us, to be undefeated on the season and obviously doing as well as we are as well. I think it's an incredibly unique set of circumstances that just only add to the occasion. Obviously, we're expecting a sold-out stadium. That was 3 weeks ago. Still really important that everyone gets out and that students especially make their way out and that we can break an attendance record and push 4,000 people. And that will only, again, add fuel to the fire and add to the occasion, making it a much bigger game and a much bigger event than just simply having a conference game that's worth 3 points if we win and not if we lose. So we're embracing that aspect of this and really looking forward to the contest.
Nick, if you'd like to ask a question.
Dan, good to see you. I wanted to chat briefly about the South Carolina game.
Mm-hmm.
You guys go up to, give up to, and still come away with a win. So two-part question. Why did you guys have breakdowns at the back to allow them back into the match? And did you like the way that your team responded in the final 20 minutes or so?
I loved how we played. Honestly, I loved how we played up to the point where we conceded. We kind of had the message at halftime was we'd done everything that kind of put the game to bed. I thought the quality of chances and some of the attacking play, I'd actually argue that's maybe the best we've looked, and really felt like we were kind of starting to find our flow from an attacking perspective. So the only thing we hadn't done going in at halftime was kind of end it by going 2 up or 3 up. Talked about us feeling like we were on the verge of maybe the most well-rounded complete performance of the season, and if we could get the second, that we should be hungry to go on and get the third. And when the second goal came, to be fair, we had 2 great chances after that as well. Why we conceded the goals, yeah, I have no idea. I didn't like that part either. But it's just football, right? It's a funny old game. There was some small mistakes, some marginal mistakes. Great strike from the edge of the box from them, and all of a sudden you're still in a game. So to come through that, as we have really in pretty much every test this season, I mean, it would be nice to win a game 3 or 4-0 and not be stressed going into the last 15 minutes. But you have to give credit where it's due, and every game we've had to fight for, we've come out and passed that test. So yeah, we're battle scarred. We're weathered in that regard. We're battle tested. In those late minutes, late games where you're not necessarily hanging on, but making sure you're doing what you need to get over the line. So from that perspective, of course, I was proud of the group.
John, like to ask a question?
Yeah, Dan, John Antonic. I'm curious, you've got 4 West Virginians on your roster and Marshall has 1. So obviously you guys have built your programs getting international guys. You view this as a kind of a showcase of elite high-level soccer in Morgantown, West Virginia, with 2 programs that kind of built from from outside within, so to speak?
Do I view it that way? I'm not sure. Sorry, John. I'm not sure I perfectly understood the question.
Well, just the fact that you guys have built with international talent, and all eyes are going to be on Morgantown, West Virginia tomorrow, whether they're there or whether they're watching that live stream. There are going to be a ton of people that are involved in college soccer are going to be watching that match. This is an opportunity, I guess, to showcase West Virginia soccer, even though you've built the programs by getting international guys. I guess that's what I'm trying to ask. Yeah,
it depends who we're showcasing it to, right? I think it depends what audience you're speaking to. So, of course, I think it's an incredible opportunity for both Marshall and West Virginia to showcase what we have, the quality of programs that we have, the makeup of our rosters and that aspect of things, slightly different, right? We're about a 50-50 split from domestic to international.
Yeah.
They're a little stronger than that from an international perspective. We love the idea of having in-state talent. We love the idea of having a core group of domestic players that maybe have a truer sense or certainly a better understanding quicker of what it means to represent a university. That they may have ties to West Virginia a little bit quicker than some of our internationals, but I can assure you that they come and they develop, and both Chris and I are walking testimonies of that. So there's a few ways to look at it, right? You could look at it as just how diverse the populations are within and the demographics are within both of our squads, and I hope you're going to see two groups of young men that are fighting tooth and nail for the name on the front of their shirt, and for two programs that respectably or respectfully, should I say, represent West Virginia perhaps better than any other. And what you can do to have a young man from Japan or France or Germany or Spain, how quickly you can develop that level of investment into not just your program, not just the university, but the community and the state as well. And I would celebrate that aspect of what tomorrow is going to represent.
And one other quick question here. I know Chris has not really brought up West Virginia much. He went one match at a time. How much have you mentioned it to your guys before, obviously, you got into planning this week?
Probably wouldn't have mentioned it at all if our social media department hadn't gone ahead and announced that we'd sold the game out 3 weeks ago. So felt obligated to bring it to touch on it, to address the elephant in the room and just remind everyone that I think at that stage we still had 5 games to go before we even got to this. So again, credit where it's due, right? We had that slight distraction, that slight moment of panic. Honestly, I had so many players that came up to me within hours and within the next day or so of that being broadcast. My parents are coming in town. Are we going to get tickets? Like, I've got these people coming. Like, are we still going to be able to get tickets? Panicking that they weren't going to get people into the game. Thankfully, we've been able to accommodate, it looks like, everyone, which is huge. But yeah, at that point, it felt necessary just to remind them that where did we want to be come that game, right? And obviously that stretch of games we've had to remain undefeated and pick up some additional wins, allows us to probably enjoy this one even more.
Joe, go ahead.
Dan, is it your experience when you get into a rivalry, a high consequence match like this, that form and tactics can kind of get lost by the players? And do you have to stress that to the team?
And not with Marshall. I think if you look at the past contests between us, they've all been very, very, I guess in my biased opinion, high level tactical games. There's been a chess game that has gone on in every single game we've had up to now. So I think you'll see, if you were to look at scheduling for both teams, I think you will see a pattern that wherever possible, we've given ourselves time to prepare for them, and likewise they've given themselves time to prepare for us. So with that said, generally that we are able to be as thorough as we would like to be. We had an extra day, so we used it to prepare, to spend a little bit more time on them. We also had 2 extra days of just simply recovering. We've had a stretch that we've now got through unscathed as far as no losses, where we've played 8 games in 23 days. It was a brutal part of our schedule. It's probably why we haven't had too many games that we've ran away with this year as well. So for us to get through that, honestly, is a small triumph for us. And again, only kind of re-emphasizes to me that we can afford the luxury to really enjoy this one and go out there with a lot of energy, because, as I said, since South Carolina, I think the guys will have had a recovery day, 2 days off. So really 3 days where we've just tried to let them rejuvenate and recover from what was a real gauntlet of games that we just faced in that middle stretch of the season.
Mariano?
Hey, Coach. With this sort of game, it seems like everyone's talking about it, right? How much do you tell the guys, like, use the crowd, to motivate you a little bit, but also not use it too much to maybe get overly emotional and not lose the focus of the game?
Yeah, the number one message to the players, or when we went through the scout and kind of broke it down into, we try and keep things digestible, but the 3 key points, the number one key point was our emotional intelligence and the discipline that's required tomorrow night. So there are moments when we're going to need the crowd, and then there are moments where our players are going to have to suppress that or show some restraint. And we're going to have to key in on being really, really focused and disciplined against a high energy team, a fluent attacking dynamic team, where the quality of our reactions in transition are going to have to be near perfect. But yeah, if we're attacking and we get a corner and there's 3,000 plus people cheering us on, like, I hope that lifts them as well, right? When there's 15 minutes left and we're thinking about getting tired, and there's a raucous crowd and a lot of noise and energy, I hope that lifts us and fuels us even more. So it's about having the capacity to harness it in all the right moments, and again, not allow, to your point, not allow it to spill over into something too emotional. So we're going to have to be intelligent and measured with that aspect of our approach.
Cody?
Hey, Dan, I got a couple for you if you don't mind.
Of course.
First, could you just talk a little bit about your relationship with Chris? On top of it being a top 10 matchup and an in-state matchup, also the coaches obviously have a bunch of history.
Yeah, he's a great friend. He's a great friend, and we always look forward to catching up. It's a pain that they happen to be as good as they are, and they happen to be in our conference, but and a rival, I guess. But yeah, that I don't think that will ever change as far as how much we'll enjoy seeing one another and catching up. So I'm going to see him tonight. They get into town here this evening. We're gonna catch up a little bit later when my responsibilities with our team are spoken for, as are his. And that's kind of our tradition. We'll always get together either night before or morning of the game, just so we can say hello to one another and spend some time together. I've known him now since 2012. He hired me at Charleston in 2014. We spent 3 incredible years together at Charleston, reaching three Final Fours in a row. And I owe him a lot. I owe him a lot in terms of how I grew in that time. He delegated a lot of responsibilities for me, which allowed me to grow as a young coach. And I'm incredibly thankful for that. I think I probably went to Charleston thinking I was ready to be a head coach, and learned pretty quickly that I wasn't. And a lot of that is thanks to the lessons I learned along the way from Chris. So I think there's always going to be mutual admiration there. I know his family incredibly well. I used to babysit his kids. There's more than just a friendship. There's a family tie there as well. So probably not ideal that we're in one of the most bitter rivalries that there could possibly be between the two schools. But in some regards, I'd almost rather it be that way, that, we get to play each other on the type of occasion that we're going to have tomorrow. I think it was funny. I think I saw someone had put something on social media belittling the fact that we've had to accommodate more bleachers to increase our attendance. And I thought, well, Marshall's highest attendance was the last time we were there, right? So we're both doing each other favors in terms of how we're growing the sport, how we're growing the attention that surrounds men's soccer at both universities and within the state. So it can only be seen as a positive.
Right. And then you mentioned how early this game sold out. In your time as a coach and going back as a player, can you remember a game in Morgantown that's had this kind of excitement?
Never. I don't know that we've ever sold a game out on the men's side. We were even looking through it on the women's side. I know they've had some big games here. I think they hosted an Elite 8 game here. But to my knowledge, a men's soccer game has never sold out. So to not only sell it out, but to do it, as I said, I think nearly 3 weeks in advance is incredible, right? I hope that the attention it draws and the fans that we get through the door have the quality of experience that they want to come back, and the occasions like this are come more consistently, and that we can grow our fan base a little bit.
Mariano, if you have a question.
Yeah, Coach. In these last 2 games, we've seen Dante play at more of a right back spot. How impressed have you been with him there, slotting into that spot, and how much do you anticipate him playing there going forward, maybe in the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think firstly, Dante played his entire freshman year at Louisville in that position. I think it was, double figures in terms of number of games he played in that position. So that was part of his attraction from a recruitment perspective, was his capacity to play multiple positions. He can play centre back as well. We've played him in the 10 this year. He can play central midfield. So we knew when we recruited him that he was versatile. It was a little bit out of necessity, quite honestly. We obviously had sad news a few weeks ago when Ryan Varble broke his ankle and kind of put an end to his freshman campaign. Thankfully, he can still medically redshirt. And then the issue we had, 25 minutes in with the UNCG game where Thomas, who'd been in really good form up to that point, came off with a tight groin and thankfully is in a position now where he's going to be back available going into tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, the influence that he had, obviously the impact he had when he came on against James Madison, getting the assist. I thought he was tremendous against South Carolina when he was fit. Again, he's still working that aspect of things. So in the capacity we could use him when he was still feeling and looking sharp, I thought he was very, very effective for us. So it's great to have him in that role. We welcome Thomas back with open arms into the squad and into the options that we have there going into tomorrow, which again potentially frees up more rotation in midfield for Dante as well. So yeah, he's a useful pet to have in the sense that he can fill a lot of different roles, and every team generally tends to find themselves with one or two players like that have that utility tag. He's more than that, without a doubt. And again, this is only just kind of emphasized or showcased his qualities with what he's done in the last couple of games coming in at right back for us.
Dan, I don't want to belabor this point. I know that a lot has been made of this match, but I do want to hone in just briefly on the fact that you, Andy, and Nick all played together in some big matches back in your day and are now doing this thing together coaching. Has that sunk in at any point in this week that you guys in this new role as coaches are at the center of one of the biggest moments in program history?
No, can I take a second to allow it to? No, I think you're always looking for something in the lead up to a game like this, right? As far as just little inspirational things here, there, and whatever, some motivation, whatever it may be. So we actually look back at what our record is since 2000 against top 5 opponents, right? And just how rare it is to play the number 1 team at home. I think we've done it on 3 occasions. So since 2000 and technically since 2006, because that was the first time we played someone a number 1 at home, but against top 5 opponents at Dick Deles since 2006. So in the last 17 years, we're 5-1-1. The single loss was against Maryland. I happen to be at University of Charleston, so I can't claim to be associated with that one. But as player, assistant coach, or coach, 5-0-1 at Dick Deles, when it really counts, if you like, against top 5 opponents. So I'd love to keep that goose egg tomorrow and remain undefeated in those high level games. But if a stat like that can't give our players a little bit of an extra element of belief that we're capable and that teams in the past have shown that they're capable and just what a fortress Dick Deles can be, then I don't know what will. So yeah, that was a pretty, if you like, reassuring stat for us.